Okay.
Thank you.
Good. So, Tay, what's your reaction? Were you surprised by this? Was the client surprised?
I had told my client to expect 40 years. The jury having convicted him of capital murder, I think the math was easy for them. If they believe that you set somebody on fire, an 8-year-old boy, on his birthday, you're going to get the maximum sentence.
Describe your next steps.
The next step, tomorrow, the judge will actually sentence him to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 40 years at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then we'll file the appellate work as soon as he is sentenced.
Your appeal. What's the basis of your appeal?
There'll be a couple of issues, and of course the ex post facto will be one, but also the causation, the length of time between the date of the incident when Robert was burned and his death, and whether or not the cancer actually caused that. That'll be an interesting question for the courts.
Obviously, without betraying any privilege, what can you tell us about what your client said about his reaction to the verdict? You said a couple of things apparently about what he might do in prison and so on. What can you tell me about that?
He hasn't said anything really substantive. He knows he's going to be in TDC for a while, and I had advised him not to say anything while we were in court, not to get crossways with Judge Hamilton.
Does he need mental care, mental health care?
Yes, he does need assistance. He needs counseling. He's previously been found to be mildly mentally retarded, and he's received psychiatric counseling and has been hospitalized previous to this trial. So yes, he is definitely mentally ill, and I'm sure he'll receive it while he's in TDC.
Did you talk to the jury?
I did talk to the jury, and I think the jury was very deliberative in their 4-hour caucus over guilt innocence in the case, and they also considered what the defense brought up in punishment, but their concern was parole and when Don would be returned to the free world.
Say, in the closing, you're telling the jurors as far as the 40 years that they really could convict a 13-year-old, to be 13 back at the time when there was an adult prison. What was meant by that?
Well, the maximum sentence for a 13-year-old being 40 years, that's pretty harsh, but the jury obviously felt that if there was a fact scenario that would demand it, this was it.
What about the adult prison aspect of it? What adult was present?
We don't know. That's the next question. I know that law enforcement will continue to look in to find out who the adult was on the trail the day that this happened with Dawn, and everybody wants to know. I think that's a really good question, and the family would want to know that also.
Has Dawn expressed any remorse at all to you?
I think Dawn has expressed remorse to what happened to Robert Middleton, but I don't think that at the age of 13 and his complicity in the case, that he feels like he's the only one responsible for this.
How come he doesn't know? I mean, how come he hasn't sought out to figure out, to get some time to figure out who the adult was?
The attorneys have advised him not to speak on that, and as his lawyer, I have not asked him what happened.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you all. I spell it capital E period space capital T-A-Y, and my last name is Bond, B-O-N-D, and I go by Tay. Thank you all. Yeah, go ahead.
We're obviously very relieved. The jury, like yesterday, carefully deliberated and poured over a lot of information, a lot of very sad and tragic information today that Mr. Blackburn and I put on, and Mr. Brumberger, that revealed the true character of this individual, and we commend the jury's hard work. We thank the court staff here in Galveston County for their hospitality and making sure that this trial, 100 miles away from our where we work, was as smooth as possible. They were accommodating to both sides. We want to once again, the sheriff's department has been waiting for this day for 17 years, almost 17 years, and what more can be said about the fine people at Shriners Hospital that give hope and promise to those whose prognosis looks hopeless. And Colleen and Heather and Bobby were able to enjoy, Robert's time on this earth for another 13 years because of their hard work. And once again, the Sheriff's Department in Montgomery County, they never quit. And they gathered and they dug and they drove around and burned a lot of gas going around making sure that we had enough to present this case to a jury down here in Galveston County that truly did step up.
You mentioned the jurors probably would like to have given more than 40 years. What would you have liked to have seen in this case?
Well, listen, there was nothing we could do about that. That was the max. They did everything they could. Obviously, if this had been an adult, then this would have been a case that was, where the death penalty could have been on the table. But that we can't go back and unchange the law in 1998. And the jury stepped up and gave us what we wanted, which was a guilty verdict for yesterday on the capital murder and a 40-year prison sentence. And it couldn't have gone any better for Mr. Blackburn and Mr. Brumberger and myself.
So, Rob, he follows up with the 98 law.
Well, somebody else is writing this appellate brief. All right, the offense took place on June 29th of 1998. So the law, as it was back then, will be what applies.
So that will TDC will look at that 98 conviction, or the 98 conviction, or how will they look at it as far as time?
Well, TDC will factor in a lot of other things other than the facts of this case, the defendant's previous criminal history, his propensity for violence, and other things like that in determining how much of that time he does.
When is he actually eligible for parole?
He'll get credit for the time he's been in, I think since like October of 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So he gets credit for that, I think day for day credit. And then he has to do a flat calendar half before he's even eligible to come up for parole.
So I think if I was interrupting, but I think the question a lot of people looking at home is this guy's dangerous. He shouldn't be out there. But is there a danger he's going to get out in 2 years because 40 years is all he could get on?
I don't know, Doug. I can't predict the future other than, Kelly and I today laying out what this defendant has done in his past in addition to what he did to that little boy. Obviously we proved both with our underlying offense and with everything else that he's a very, very dangerous individual.
Can you repeat that? Can you tell us again what you told the jury?
In terms of closing argument?
In terms of the other offenses and so on, registering, etc.
Well, the defendant, we proved up today that the defendant had a 2009 conviction for failure to register as a sex offender out of San Jacinto County, which is Cold Spring, and then a 2010 conviction for not registering as a sex offender in Liberty County. Both of those were, of course, based on the fact that he had been to the Texas Youth Commission, I think in 2006, for an indeterminate sentence for what he did to that brave young man that testified today. And in addition to that, TYC held him until his 21st birthday. They could not hold him for 1 day longer than they did. So, he had a lot of disciplinary write-ups that occurred while he was locked up that Kelly and I didn't even go into today.
You mentioned something in the closing arguments about other sexual offenses that he committed. Can you reiterate that?
Well, you heard from the victims today. I mean, obviously you heard what Heather said about what he did to Robert Middleton, and then you heard from a young female who was 6 in a swimming pool. And then you heard about, of course, the other male that testified in both the guilt and punishment phase, as well as what you heard from Colleen about something that, that transpired between this defendant and a member of her family, in addition to Robert.
These guys are not doing it for that.
Well, yes.
Are there any cases against him being investigated that could come up that would?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. He's got a pending failure to register case in San Jacinto County right now that he's got to go he's got to go back to San Jacinto County to face that. He's looking at up to 20 years on that case.
Is that something that a judge would reasonably tack on to the point after he has served his sentence in this case?
The district attorney at San Jacinto County can file what's called a motion to accumulate sentence, and ask the judge that any time he receives in that case could be what is called stacked on top of this one.
Are you relieved? How do you feel?
Relieved. Very, very happy, very relieved. Kelly, Mark, and I were tired. It's been a grind. It's been tough, and I'll tell you the same thing I just told Colleen Middleton. It's been hard, and it's been a real challenge that we rose up to and met. But the sacrifices that we've made and the inconvenience that we've had to bear pales. It's a drop in the bucket compared to what this family has had to go through for almost 17 years. You know, they wanted this day. That's all they asked for, is to get this day, and they got it. So we're ecstatic and very happy that they finally got this day. I wish this, you know, in some respects, that this day never happened and that Robbie was still with us. But, you know, things happened the way they did.
Can you briefly recount, there was a story about a kitten and then the sexual assault for the camera?
Yes, Heather Middleton testified that years and years ago, around the time where all of this happened, that she had a kitten. I don't remember the kitten's name, but he stomped it to death. Very disturbing. You know? I mean, who would do something like that?
Can you describe the pool incident as well?
He sexually assaulted a 6-year-old girl in a swimming pool right within days of this happening.
Say your name for
Oh, Rob Freyer, F-R-E-Y-E-R, and Kelly Blackburn, B-L-A-C-K-B-U-R-N. And go ahead.
Can you address the appellate issues? Is that something you're going to be working on?
No, I'm not an appellate lawyer. Mark Broomberger, although I kind of act like one, but
Yeah, okay.
Mark Broomberger's our appellate guy. I mean, I can tell you that the jury in this case, unlike Mr. Bond continually hammered, did not base this decision on the overwhelming, horrible evidence that they saw. They based it on the facts that we presented. It's a strong case. I think it's a case that's going to stand up. The county attorney's office did a great job getting us to this point, getting us in the batter's box where we could take a swing at this case. And Mark's a bright guy. He knows what he's doing, and I think it's going to stand up. I feel very good about that. So it's an issue in every case, but we'll deal with it. So.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
I might, yeah, I have, my eyes are real sensitive to light, or I would.
That's fine. All right. So how do you feel right now?
I'm happy. I'm just going to enjoy this day and not worry about anything else. I'm enjoying the moment, and I'm very happy. Yeah.
Were you surprised that it came to 40 years? Did you expect that? Were you a little nervous they might not come back with a maximum sentence on this? What was going through your mind as they were deliberating?
I thought they would come back with a maximum, but you know, you always second guess yourself right before they say it. So I was a little concerned, but not too much.
Tell us about John in the past. I mean, we heard a lot about how dangerous he was, besides what he did to Robbie. Tell us about that. What made you your mom? You saw something wrong with this kid. What was it?
His eyes. He just had the deadest looking expression on his face and his eyes. They just looked cold. Even as a little child, I would look at him and he was expressionless, and his eyes were just blank.
You know, I talked to some people who said that they would have a hard time convicting or, you know, doing a maximum sentence on a guy who was a kid at the time that he did this. It was a long time ago. And I was going to ask you to reflect on the kind of kid that Don Collins was at that time. And how do you feel about those statements from some people?
I felt the same way. I agonized over him being 13. I agonized over it. But then last night I realized, well, he's still not telling the truth about what happened. He's not remorseful. And as long as he doesn't tell the truth and who all was present on that trail, then he's still being mean to me. So I don't feel sorry for him anymore.
You talked about Robert wanting to make sure that other children were safe
Yes, sir.
from him. Talk about that today. What does this do for the safety of other kids?
It does a lot for the safety. At the very least, if he gets out, his parents know, it's on record, that he's a dangerous person and keep their children away. I wanted to make sure everyone knew how dangerous he was so they can keep their children safe just in case in the future. Yes, ma'am. I found out there were more victims, and I didn't know that. I thought Robert and I were alone, and then I found out he had other victims, and that's just heartbreaking that they were children. And that's another reason why I just don't feel sorry for him, because those poor children, he ruined everybody's life, or at least he set them back, gave them problems. Yes, sir. I absolutely believe there was an adult on the trail, but Mr. Collins won't ever tell who it was, and that's why I don't feel sorry for him. I did up until I realized he's still being mean to me, so I don't feel sorry for him, because we do not have closure unless we know who all was on that trail. I'll always second guess everybody's, what did they do? How culpable is Mr. Collins, or all of that? He did. He did. He was stalking Robbie the 2 weeks prior to Robert being burned. Every time Robert would just step out the door, he would say he saw Don, but none of the other adults or children ever saw Don but Robert.
Now, we heard in the victim impact statement, Heather talking about what Robbie did to try to help get Shriners reopened here in Galveston. I actually hadn't heard that. If you could tell me about that and how ironic it is we're standing in Galveston where this finally comes to a conclusion, and a place obviously important to Robbie.
Yes, ma'am. After Shriners had shut down and they had been talking about not reopening it because, I mean, it's on Galveston and it just, I don't know why they wouldn't reopen it. Robert was very upset because he wouldn't have survived if he had to be transported further away. He only survived because Shriners was so close. And he wanted to keep it open. He loved that hospital. We both loved that hospital. We couldn't see how we were going to make it without it. So he went to Shriners and he talked to them and he handed out flyers and he just showed his support and they kept the hospital open. I like to think because of Robert, but no, it was probably it was a concentrated effort on everybody's part.
And it all concludes here in Galveston.
Yes, ma'am. Galveston has been good to us. Galveston was where I felt safe. We would come here with Robert, and we always felt safe here in Montgomery County. We did, and as long as there was someone free and loose, we were terrified to be there. So we love Galveston. We love the hospital.
How do you think Robbie feel today? What are you thinking of? What are you remembering about him today?
I'm sure Robert's with us and he's happy. He blamed Dawn. There was no doubt in his mind, and I tried every which way to just make sure he was positive, and he never wavered. It was always Dawn. He didn't want to talk about it. Don't talk to me about forgiveness, none of that stuff. It was Dawn. The end.
How going forward for your family,
Yes,
having
ma'am.
this ended, being able to process this thing that happened decades ago, but it didn't
To a certain extent, we can. We're just gonna. It's gonna take a while for all of it to sink in. But yeah, I think right now we're just gonna enjoy the moment, and then I will consider maybe keeping after who else was on the trail. Keep going, keep fighting, keep trying to get everybody responsible, held accountable. That's probably what I will do. But right now, I'm just gonna enjoy today. Well, be grateful for what we have. Yeah.
Rebecca, can you elaborate a little bit on Robbie? Well, you worked with him for many, many years.
Yes, yes, I did. I met Robbie, I believe when he was 16 years old. He came to me in the Wellness Center at Shriners, and he was just a kid who always made you happy. Not only did I teach him, he taught me. He taught all of us about life. And whatever happened to him, he didn't let it define him. He was still that happy person. Yeah, he might have been frustrated of all the surgeries, all the rehab, but he was happy, and he was an advocate to other families and children. It was his passion. So when Robert died, June 28th, 2011 would have been his 21st birthday, I had the city of Galveston proclaim that as Robert Ray 20 Bucks Middleton Day, and everybody donated 20 bucks to Shriners Hospital in his honor. I still have that fund going today. So now it will be justice for Robbie.
Tell us what the $20, why the $20?
He always would go up to you wherever he was and, hey, you got 20 bucks? You know, that was just his demeanor. He was just a jokester kind of kid. Everybody, even on the unit, when he was on the unit, hey, you got 20 bucks, you got 20 bucks, you know. That was just Robert. He was a jokester, but a happy kid.
What about him and Gordon's fight to keep Shriners open?
Excuse me?
What about the Gordon's fight to keep Shriners open?
They knew the importance of this hospital here in Galveston, and what it does house the largest burn hospital there is. So they knew the importance of it. So them both being burned here at Shriners knew that that hospital needed to stay open for other burn children coming in from other countries. Not only from America, we get it from Mexico, Panama, Belize. I mean, we get it from all over. And they were very big on keeping that hospital open.
Can you say your name for us?
Rebecca Whitlock. I'm a certified personal trainer in the Wellness Center at Shriners Hospital.
How long have you been there?
10 years. W-H-I-T-L-O-C-K. Rebecca, Rebecca.
Real quick, the doctors did link his cancer to
You know, the most likely, I mean, I'm not the expert when it comes to that. I dealt with more on the rehab end, but that size of burn, he was recorded the biggest burn, no doubt. Yes. Yes.
A lot of the senses that we have, so that wasn't painful. What was painful was stretching him because he had to be functional. He had to be able to brush his teeth and dress himself and all that sort of the range of movement. They would stretch him and stretch him and stretch him, and that was horribly painful. But he did well, and he was functional. He could do every single thing for himself except drive because he was blind, and put his socks on. So he would just have to wear shoes without socks. Yeah. He could put his shoes on because he would just slip them on. We would just leave them not laced real tight. So he was really, he did very well. He was considered high functional for a child, for an adult, because you can't drive, and that was, wasn't hard. But when we lived in Galveston, he did know how to ride the bus because he and I would ride the bus everywhere. So if he were to stay in Galveston, he could ride the bus everywhere. The hospital could take care of him. He could have lived independently. Right. Yeah.
What about his return to school? When he first returned to school, what do you remember about that?
I remember he looked like he should not be at school. It was a leap of faith. I had to just go to the hospital that he was ready, but he wasn't vain at all, and he just fit right back in. He loved school. He had friends. It was all going good for him. So yeah, he wasn't worried.
Colin, do you have a phone number if I have any more questions on